Yeah, I'll change ours.
It is 7 p.m. I'll call this June's 5th meeting to order. Roll call. Joel?
Present.
Brad?
Yes.
Leah? Here. Jim?
Yes.
Ethan?
Here.
Carly? Here. Adam?
Here.
I am here. Dr. Slaughter was also here. Has the meeting been properly noticed and
Yes.
certified? All right, please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would someone like to read the mission statement?
I will. The Mount Horeb Area School District, in partnership with the community, is dedicated to nurturing, educating, and challenging all students, preparing and empowering them to be productive, responsible, and self-fulfilled members of society.
Thank you. 2A, approval of the agenda. We would like to propose moving 6A and 7A up to after 3A so our students can present further in the agenda.
Motion to approve the revised agenda.
I'll second that.
All those in favor of approving the revised agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 2B, approval of the May 15th, 2023 board regular meeting minutes.
Motion to approve.
There's a second.
All those in favor of approval of the May 15th, 2023 board regular meeting minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, 3A, student spotlight. Colonel Olson. I will turn it over to Mr. Lundquist.
Thank you. We have a lot of great students at Horeb High School. As you know, we got to celebrate a number of them yesterday. It's great you can see some more here today. But today we are going to celebrate Emma, a 10th grader here at the high school. And when we think about the student spotlight, we want to think of some really bodies of what Horeb High School is, and being involved, and being kind, and being empathetic, and you really don't have to look too much further to find Emma. No matter what she's doing, whether it's like leading the way in DECA, or I think even her leadership with the baseball team, and especially with the Strikeout for Cancer, her helping organization and keeping things going. She's just kind, just a very kind, great person that you think of when you see her and smile, and she's always saying hi. We're just thrilled to have her as a Viking at the high school, but also just as a leader in our building. We're just thrilled to have her at the high school. I don't know if you want to share anything else?
Well,
Yeah.
she's a leader. That's something that we go to. Jokingly, she doesn't know this, coaches are fighting over who gets her next year as a manager for their individual sports, and they see what she does. She organizes things. She don't have to worry about her with uniforms. I know that they're all going to get put back in order by number, folded the right way. She's also an ambassador for the girls golf team. I love that about her. That team has gone very far and they've come a long way. And then, like Mr. Lundquist said, she's just a nice person that you'll see her sitting with people, different people at lunchtime, inviting them to sit with her. And I just appreciate her, and I'm glad that we get to have her back.
You're only a sophomore, so we
Yes.
get a few more years
We're
to see how
lucky.
much more you're going to grow and continue to lead our building. So that's an honor, and it's just lovely being able to honor you tonight.
Yeah, can I share some of the things that staff have said?
Please.
It's nice, we know it's nice to have staff kind of reach out, and they reach out. The teacher saying, Ms. Carroll said, Emma is one of the most kind, enthusiastic, involved students I've ever had a chance to work with. She's always willing to go above and beyond and give extra support to anyone who needs it, and has shown herself to be a true mentor in the new DECA members this year. As Barry said, Emma's incredible and well-deserving of this acknowledgement. She always has a positive attitude. I'll never forget today, the day she came into class and said, I'm ready to learn today. And Mr. Swingen said, Emma Olson is an absolute joy to have in class. Always bright, always optimistic. She has an ability to get along with everyone she comes in contact with. So, thank you so much for all you do for us to make us better.
Emma, you have a fan group here. Tell us who they are.
My family, I'm so grateful for them and all that they do for me. My mom, dad, and brother mother are always so supportive of me and just helpful in everything that I want to do and achieve.
We just have such great hope for you in the future. I had the pleasure to drive about an hour and a half with you recently up to Wisconsin Dells. Emma was attending the Rotary Youth Leadership Academy, one of 2 students in our school district, and I can't think of a better student leader. Got to learn a great deal about you, and your work in and out of school is just remarkable. Thank you for representing the very best of Mount Horeb High School.
Thank you.
We have a little certificate and a Viking pin we hope that you'll wear proudly. Is it okay if we take a picture of you with our Board of Education president, who also happens to be our high school liaison? Where would be a good place to do that? Maybe just out in the hallway? Would that be all right? Wonderful. Mom and Dad, brother, would you be willing to join us?
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Sarah, can I trouble you to be our guest photographer?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
That he just did to tell you to go.
You can participate? Don't you think they should know students? Sure. Yeah. I'll be a student, maybe the not a student. No, because you will be more.
It might be true. You were the one who was like, I'm gonna fool around.
I know, I was the not the student. Me too.
I was the one who was like, I think you're the one who's gonna throw the people for a whole
Yes. I want you to sit on the floor. Crisscross applesauce.
Mountain Rose.
Mountain Rose.
Or mermaid. Mermaid. Crisscross.
Oh my gosh, a mermaid. I'd be like,
Yeah, see?
that's what it is. Oh, like this? Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Oh, just that.
It's like, be so it's like uncomfortable. Like, I used to.
Oh.
The mermaid.
Well, you just
There's great. I knew mountains. I guess I didn't. Good setting.
Moving on to 6A, the Spanish and French travel showcase. Mrs. Perez and Mr. Stream, thank you for the videos. They're very fun to watch.
I've brought with us today 2 students from each of our trips. I took on a group of students to France and Switzerland, and Ms. Perez took a group of students down to Costa Rica. Rather than having the teachers share why we thought this was a worthwhile experience, we thought we would ask the students. Hopefully, the 4 of you being here means that you thought it was a worthwhile experience. Can you tell us why?
I guess I can get us started. I personally think that stepping outside of your comfort zone, especially internationally, is something that just can't be made in a classroom, despite how well we have our teachers to coach us through learning things like conversation. Just being made to interact with native speakers is something that just instantly elevates our linguistics just that much. So that's why it was worthwhile for me.
Yeah, I think when they talk about culture shock, like you just think, yep, it's different, you're gonna get used to it, but it was a definite, actual physical feeling of being somewhere different, completely experiencing some different culture. And I think it's just something that everyone should experience because you really have no idea what it is until you're there experiencing it, and definitely helps shape your view of the world. And it was a good way for us, but yeah, just in a powerful way. So
I think it's great to have these experiences through school because a lot of people don't get the opportunities to go with their families. So it's really great to have people go to another country. You get to meet native speakers, you get to create bonds with your peers that you have with no one else. I think it's great that you get to learn with your friends, but then you also get to learn about yourself. And I think that's really important as well.
And for me, it was just so surreal because it was personally my first time stepping out of the country. It was just an amazing experience. And it got me, going there got me to know where I'm at in my Spanish and where I need to go moving on forward.
Are there any questions from you? What was the most memorable part of the trip? What thing did you do that you will never forget?
I know Costa Rica, we got to volunteer at a school for a day. We got to play soccer with these kids and talk to them and hang out with them, and we did win. We got to paint a sidewalk and bring light and joy into these schools that aren't as fortunate as we are here, but they still love and they still have all these experiences. And also, we had an amazing tour guide. He made the whole trip worthwhile. He talked to us. He understood our Spanglish and he talked in his Spanglish, so it was pretty great to just be able to communicate with someone. And he went out of his way to give experiences that we didn't originally have scheduled. He said, you need to do this, so we're going to make you do this. One of my most memorable, it was probably before we even got out of the country. I met a man in the airport at Chicago, and he was going back to France, home to his family, and he was just talking about work and life, and he was talking to me in French, like being very slow and just nice with how basic my French is, very amateur. But it was just so nice because I actually understood what he was saying, and he was saying it slowly and simply for me, which was wonderful. But it was the first time I'd actually spoken with a native French speaker, and it was just completely different. Monsieur does a really, really good job in class, I remember, but it was just completely new, and it was really good. And it was the first of many of those experiences, so it was good. It was nice.
For me, I really enjoyed big cities, getting to go to the pharmacy in Paris, I wouldn't be able to here, or spending the day in Geneva was amazing because just wandering the streets and being able to go in so many cool shops that just are not the same here. That was my most memorable experience.
For me, it was when I had to climb under a porch to grab some keys, and there was this poisonous frog a couple feet away, and it was really cool.
I dropped it.
Well, we know how much work it takes to put in really quality experience. So a tip of the hat to you, as well as Ms. Perez and our entire world language program. And those chaperones who participate, that's a lot of responsibility, but yet you can see the payoff here. So thank you for your leadership. Gosh, I'm so grateful you're a part of our Viking family. This is now your second year with us?
Correct, my second year.
Yeah, and the things that you've just done in 2 years for our French program has just been remarkable. Thank you for your leadership. And students, thank you for coming in tonight to share your time and talents and experiences with us. Really wonderful. Do we have a plan in place for maybe another trip?
I know that I'm already in discussions of trying to work towards creating plans for 2025, and I believe Ms. Perez is also beginning this preparations.
All right, so we should get our passports ready.
Spanish trip doesn't take chaperones, I tried.
Que lastima.
Hey, kids go no hugging monkeys, it was sad.
Well, thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. Watch your step here. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's now jump to 7A, the FFA International Convention.
Indianapolis, huh, guys?
Yep.
Hi, Doc. How are you tonight?
Oh, missing the Cub game, but I'm not missing that.
Welcome, team. Tell us what we got planned.
So for the national convention, it's from November 1st through the 4th, and we're thinking about 35 students will be coming, and then 4 to 5 chaperones plus the American FFA degree winners will come up on Friday. And we're not sure if anyone has made the national band or chorus, but then they will also be coming up with us. We'll be taking a coach bus, and then we're doing something different. We're staying on like the University of Indiana in the conference center. And the cost for each person will be about $250, but you can earn your money throughout like holiday sales or choose your way of paying.
So on the itinerary so far, on Wednesday, we will be having a tour of the Caterpillar factory on our way down to Indianapolis. And then once we get at our lodging, we will have board games and snacks before we go to bed. On Thursday, we will go to an opening session, a career show, and then rodeo, and then later that night we will have a cookout. On Friday, we will tour of someplace to be determined still, and then another session, and then a leadership workshop, and then dinner somewhere worked in. On Saturday, we will have the American degree ceremony, and then our drive home.
Now, I remember a couple of years ago, Garth Brooks played.
Yes, it was an excellent concert.
Is there any big name act that's going to be joining you this year, or is that yet to be determined? Because I know we're a little earlier.
We're a little, yeah. The National FFA conference got moved back a week, but they moved up all the deadlines, which is why we kind of feel it's important to get your approval to sign the contracts for the buses and the lodging, because it's a little bit of cash.
Well, we thank you for your leadership in organizing this, and as you are student leaders, gosh, you're going to represent us so beautifully. Thank you for that. What kinds of questions might the board have of our students tonight, if any?
Have you guys been on this trip before?
I've been on it, well, freshman year was COVID, so it was virtual, but I went on it sophomore, and then this past student year, and I'm planning on going in again senior year.
I went my freshman year, and I'm planning on going my sophomore year.
So what are some of the major takeaways that you've had from previous experience?
I think, like, the best part of it is just seeing people from all over the country and meeting people that you probably would never meet anywhere else. I mean, there's people from Alaska and Hawaii that we all meet in one spot, and you're all celebrating like the big, like, main topic of agriculture, and you're all kind of in the same experience. So it's just cool to see everybody kind of in the same boat and meeting a bunch of new people, and just like going out of Wisconsin and experiencing new things. That's why I like it so much.
Do you remember roughly how many people were there? I mean, it's
Every year, a new record is set for the number of teenagers in one spot. It is, I believe last year was over 50,000, if not 60,000.
And I do recall you have very early days.
Very early days. And late nights.
Board members, I fully recommend acceptance and approval of this trip. Thank you for your consideration. Thank you for so kindly representing.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Someone would like to make a motion? So moved.
I will second.
All those in favor of approving the FFA International Convention trip for next fall, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Have a good trip. We'll be anxious to hear
Dr.
about
Swerve,
it.
if you want to chaperone,
I'm in. Get me ready for France.
Indianapolis, France. Yeah, it's going to be right in the.
Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Moving back up on our agenda, 3B, school news. Ethan,
Yeah, I can start us off.
this
We
may
do
be the
have,
last school news.
I know, we have, it's a pretty limited list as we are wrapping up pretty quickly for our school year. I have, obviously, our seniors graduated yesterday. Our school year is ending soon, as I mentioned. I know there was a track meet, the state track meet. I don't have the results for that, but I'm sure we did great in that. And then I have our Mount Horeb esports team traveled up to Carthage College, and our League of Legends team placed third in the state this Saturday. I know I saw Dr. Slurnow visiting us
Yeah.
at our qualifier game. Yeah, last Wednesday.
We're so proud of you guys. That's fantastic. Yeah, we had fun, didn't we? Yeah. I would like to add a couple of things. Abby Stadler, who actually placed first. I'm not remembering in what race. Was it this 800? 800, wow. And she was hurt, I think, too, at some point. So here she is. She's still plowing through representing Mount Horeb. We're so lucky to have her as part of our team. And I go through the list, but I don't want to miss anybody. Suffice to say, we were well represented. If you're looking to kick off your summer, Madagascar is a play that's been in production here that they've been working hard on. I was up here on Saturday and they were practicing. That's Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock and at 7 o'clock. Tickets are available. And then I also want to congratulate our friends from Children's Community School. They had their ribbon cutting ceremony this past Saturday morning. And it was such a delight. I remember about 12, 18 months ago, we were out in the middle of a field wondering where this big, beautiful building was going to go. And if you haven't had a chance to go inside, gosh, it's really nice. They continue to be excellent, excellent partners of our school district. And then actually I do have a bonus item. I wanted to remind folks on the front page of our district's website, you'll see a picture of our district, or excuse me, of our state capitol. If you were to click that link, you will see the Board of Education letters that have been written recently advocating for students and fair funding around special education, mental health, and some relief on the revenue limit. We've also fashioned a letter for families, staff members, community members, and businesses to consider just adjusting and making it their own and sending that out as well. We're coming across a pretty critical time in our funding of our schools, and we anticipate that education will be taken up by the Joint Finance Committee the last week of June here. So now's the chance for us to leave a positive imprint on and our stamp on advocacy for kids. Won't you please consider doing likewise? That's my story. Sticking to it.
Anyone else, other school news?
I just want to quickly add the IC staff did a fantastic job with field day this past Friday. A lot of energy out of the kids all day long, so I know they had a lot of fun. So great job by the IC leadership and staff there.
And I'll just jump in quick. It's 3 weeks ago now, but after we last met, the middle school choir concert. I think Britson led the 7th and 8th graders in the choir concert. Awesome talent, awesome work. I think all the music department came out at one point and participated, so it was just great to see all their work.
Friday, if you're looking for a sweet treat, the PTO is doing a share with Icky Sticky for the whole day. So the PTO gets 10%. So buy lots of ice cream, coffee, waffles, all of it. Just buy all of it.
That's great.
Anybody else?
Just thanks again to the high school band for their work on the Memorial Day ceremony, which is always just a real treat. Try to remind my kid, yeah, you gotta put on the wool outfit, and it's 90 degrees out, but the community is watching you on that day as much as they are on any other performance that you have. They made it a special day again.
And they're marching in the frolic on Sunday, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No wall. Okay.
3C, citizens' comments.
I didn't see any listed.
4A, personnel transactions. Is there anything to highlight or note? Looking for a motion to approve. So
I'll second that.
all those in favor of approving the personnel transactions, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Number 5, consent agenda. Is there anything anyone would like to pull out? And noting that 5D is the acceptance of a $22,000 donation from the Mount Horeb Basketball Club for the purchase of the basketball hoops in the main gym. I think that Dave Reed shared with us when he gave the facility speech about the arms that they're replacing. I'm looking at Jen because I guess.
Yeah, it's everything from the rafters down. So the whole standard, everything on all 6 baskets.
they continue to just be wonderful, wonderful partners to our school district. Grateful.
Motion to approve consent agendas. Second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? 6B, committee member reports. Rob, would you like to start with the building grounds and transportation?
Sure, thank you. We met on May 22nd and did fundamentally two things. One is we had a tour of the bus garage that was led by Dave and Brian. And there was a discussion, of course, along the way about ensuring that the facility was adequate for the district's need and needs. And we were assured not only is it adequate for the district's needs, but it is a bus garage that really any district would envy. So we're really lucky to have not only the facility, but great people who are ensuring that facility continues to be up to evolving standard. We also are asking the board to approve 3 food service items tonight, and I think that's relatively straightforward, but we had a great meeting. We'll continue to have great meetings, and we thank David and Brian for their hospitality.
Any questions for Rob? Jim, would you like to give the finance committee?
Sure, I will keep this short. It seems like our dates have been odd, so it's been, the last report we met on May 8th. So at that time, we did not have any donations to consider. We talked about our tax collection. So far, we have collected 74% of the taxes, which is normal. The other 26% we collect in August. We reviewed our calendar as we do every meeting, and the upcoming audit here in July. We discussed, and we'll hear more about the disposal of school records. And basically, we just, it's part of the state statute, 25-page lengthy state statute that we will follow. And then we'll just continue to monitor the state budget process, like Dr. Salerno said, probably the last week of June. We'll know more progress, I guess we should say. So we now will meet next Monday night, and so more to come from there.
Any questions for Jim? Adam, the safety and wellness committee report?
Yeah, it was my first meeting. It was a very good meeting. A couple of top line items to mention for everyone. We were just discussing again education as well. We've been a member of the Dane County Equity Consortium. That organization had some good times with them, looking at moving in a different direction this year. Going in a little bit more with Nehemiah for our needs, and we're not the only district in the area that's doing that based on return on what we can get. I think the outcome of the discussion, which was a really good discussion in our SAW meeting, was just that the progress that we've made has been really steady through the years in this, and some other districts frankly move faster and maybe aren't progressing as much as we have through time as a result, either because they just got ahead of themselves or ran into pushback, and we brought the community along, we brought staff along, brought kids along, and continue to receive compliments about how well we're doing in that respect. So compliments to everyone who's been involved in that effort. The school safety update, we have digital maps done of our buildings that catalog a lot of details that will help first responders in case there's ever an incident at the school, and also just a great resource for us to have to know where everything's at. These, if I'm remembering the details correct, this is something where these digital maps will come up on display inside vehicles for anyone who gets called to the site. They're on file with all the right people in the different agencies, and so there won't be any guesswork about where to enter a building, what lies ahead. When you're coming around a corner, they'll know exactly how this building lays out, and that's going to really help response times, approach to response. Hopefully it's a lot of information that is never needed for the kind of crises that we see around the country, but you have to prepare these days. So that was really nice work that was done by everyone involved. And then I think there was just a couple of policies discussed. One was management of concussions, that's going to stay for more discussion and so on, and the other one is voting absence that you see on the agenda tonight.
Any questions for Adam? All right, 7B, consideration of planned purchase of the district's elementary literacy program. Sarah.
And friends.
My friends. I did bring friends today to help tell our story as to where we have been, where we are going with leadership development in our school district. So I'd like to introduce my friends, and we all have a portion of this presentation, so we'll be switching off. So to your right, we have Erin Stone. Erin is new to us this year. She replaced Sherry Jansen. Sherry Jansen retired at the center as a reading specialist. We snagged up Erin, and she has been a gem. I remember doing reference checks. Her principal said she's just a sponge. She's a rock star. You are so lucky. Don't take her. So we are happy to have Erin and the leadership, and you'll see a little bit of it tonight. Another leader we have is Brenna Siebold. Brenna is our K-5 literacy cast member. So she works pretty solidly with me as we move forward with our literacy development, and leads our K-5 team in that way. And then we have Heather Hurley. Heather Hurley has been an advocate for looking how we can change and move forward with some of our literacy practices. She's been in my ear in good ways about how we can, like Sarah, we gotta move forward. So she's been a cheerleader, especially for our kindergarten team and our teachers at the lower elementary. So happy to have these guys. And I think I start off first, right? Okay. They're nervous, I can tell. Okay. So we want to start telling our story with data. And throughout our time as a team here with the Horeb, we've been looking at our data. And you've seen a slide similar to this in the past. So this is looking at the forward exam. So the forward exam is an assessment that starts in 3rd grade. It's a state assessment. So I have our 3rd grade 5-year trend data. You can see the 1920 school year with COVID. We didn't have spring testing, so that's why you see a gap. This is the state results. So students who are considered proficient or advanced in 3rd grade on an English language arts assessment. We can see 40%-ish are there. Now, in comparison to Mount Horeb, which is the lower right, we were doing better, a little bit better before COVID, but we are at that 40% of students proficient or advanced. The one more time, Steve. And our bar that we had set a couple of years ago is to get our students to 70% at least for considered proficient and advanced. We're focusing on math, as I think many board members over the past couple of years with our math implementation and adoption, and now we're turning and pivoting to looking at literacy now.
Can I stand down here? Sure. Opposite to people. Okay. So we're looking at 2 different components. We're looking at a balanced literacy versus like a science of reading. So when you talk about balanced literacy, you're talking about read aloud, shared reading, guided reading, where a teacher is then pulling kids to a table. You're reading leveled text. You're relying on a context, which is like your 3 cueing system, which I'll get to that in a minute. It's your workshop model. So it's like, we have different literacy stations. Kids are going to rotate through. You might do like a read aloud, and then you're setting them on to some kind of station where they're doing independent work. So that's more of like your balanced literacy approach. What has been sort of like the historical thing for the past 10-ish years. This is kind of what it has been in education. Now we're moving to more of a science reading approach. This has been like the current talk since like 2016, I want to say. Like Amplify started really coming out with science of reading and pushing science of reading as our basis for where we should go for instruction. So your components of science of reading are phonemic awareness, phonics instruction, vocabulary instruction, building to fluency instruction, and comprehension instruction.
Science of reading is more directly taught, so your skills are directly taught to students. You're following a scope and sequence. It's explicit instruction to students. It's more whole group where you're giving everybody that explicit instruction and everybody's hearing what they need to hear getting that instruction versus like small group where some kids are getting this and some kids are getting this. The focus is you really go to sounds. So we need to know we have 26 letters, but we have 44 sounds. How does all of that come into play when you're reading? So we are honing in on sounding out words, looking at your letters specifically, looking at those graphings, knowing then following your scope and sequence, you're going to build on skills from your very basic to your more complex. Next slide, please. Balanced literacy, your 3 cueing system, is a lot of everything but actually reading the word. So you are guessing, students are guessing at words, they are prompted to, and I printed out Beanie Baby strategies. I'm just gonna pass this along to you guys. So this was like what a lot of teachers would go to are these things called Beanie Baby strategies, where it was like try and lion or Skippy the Frog or Eagle Eye, look at the pictures, everything except for like looking at and studying the actual word that you are trying to read. So you're relying on your picture, you're relying on your context, you're not using skills necessarily to actually read and decode the word. Which, when you don't have a picture or you don't have the context, you don't have the background knowledge, you're failing. You're not going to be able to read the word. Perfect example, when I was a first grade teacher, I would have a small group with me and the kids and I, we would be reading a text and a student would be stuck on a word. And so I would say, let's use one of our strategies. And it would be, the first thing is like, look at the picture. Think about what makes sense in the sentence. And they would then eventually get the word because of all of the other clues, not because of anything I was necessarily teaching them on how to actually decode the word. We'd get to the next page and they couldn't read it. And if there wasn't that picture cueing them in from the previous page, then I'm sitting there as a teacher going, why can you not read this word? Why can you not read this word? And then we're doing it all over again, where then I'm trying to say to them, look at the picture, think about the sentence. You know, what was the title of the story when I told you the title of the story and you thought about that, your background knowledge. So the 3 cueing system is not actually teaching kids to read, it's teaching us every other strategy except for reading the specific word. Go to the next slide. So we're gonna try. If you were going to use your Beanie Baby strategies or any, like, if a teacher was cueing you to use this picture and here's your paragraph. Now this is like what a lot of 3rd graders will see too, is they have a very like meh kind of picture. You know, when we get to 3rd grade, we're reading harder text, we're going beyond your picture books. Earlier grades, they have a lot more picture books, so they might have more clues in pictures, but by the time you hit 3rd grade, you're really switching, you have to know more of your content knowledge. So if you were to use this picture as your clue, use that picture, and now you're going to have to read this paragraph where you're then going to figure out what would be in the blanks just by using the picture clue. So you have to read through the paragraph and try to see if you can decipher what is going to be in those blanks. So I'm going to give you a moment to read.
So they have the slides ahead of time.
If I advance to the next slide,
So
I'll give you.
yeah, but don't do
that.
It's like Mad Libs.
This is what reading looks like for a kid who can't decode though. So now if I read it, don't swipe over yet, don't give answers. Okay. Now all these blank. Does anyone have an idea of what that is? Now all these what?
Animals.
Okay, animals. Went back and told their family and friends that there was a man in the, what kind of house? big house, farmhouse, with a big, what?
Nose cow.
Who really was a, okay, see how that would like totally not make sense, and you could be just fumbling through things the entire time. Now can you give us, what are the actual answers?
Which we are.
Yeah. Now all these animals went back and told their brothers and friends that there was a doctor, did any of you get doctor, I mean maybe the man, in the little house with a big garden, where did we get garden, who really was a doctor. So when you are a struggling reader and you don't have the skills and you are prompted to guess, your story could be completely wrong. You are solely relying on other clues and then not using your decoding skills to then, we have to be fluent in decoding, to then be fluent readers, to then comprehend, and your goal is comprehension. Go ahead.
I got one.
Back to you.
Thank you.
Good job,
Just
thank
gonna,
you.
well, I come back, you guys. I have
I just get more.
So we see your passion to read.
Yeah.
The reason why, just to understand the difference between balanced literacy and science of reading is because, as Aaron said, across the country, balanced literacy is the model that is current practice. And the whole word approach that you guys were trying with that Dr. Doolittle passage just doesn't work for kids who are having a hard time reading. So there's been a lot of research and science around how kids need to be taught in order to read. So we're gonna
Can I ask a
pause
question?
that. Sure.
That's terrific. We figured that out. But there have to be kids that, by hook or by crook, just can't do it that way, right? So what does that look like? What does that mean?
Yeah, so that's why we have people like Aaron, who are reading specialists, those students who get more direct, different instruction.
And I'm not thinking of a kid who's like, who can't read.
Okay.
I mean, it's like there are gonna be kids who just can't learn it that way, I guess is the way that I was asking the question, right or not?
Well, there are kids that aren't learning it the current way too, right, we're at the 40%.
Yeah, we saw the numbers, yeah.
Yeah, so our goal is to better our universal core, for more kids.
And then you tap into like looking at if they need specialized instruction, you tap into then what kind of specialized instruction do they need to be successful as a learner. So then you're looking at, do they need more explicit direct instruction? Do they need a hands-on approach with manipulatives or something like that? You're looking then, you think about your whole universal instruction tier 1, and then we think about adjusting for learners.
So, and I don't mean to monopolize the time, but I'm going to for another 30 seconds. So it's interesting to me that this sort of goes in cycles, doesn't it? I mean, these models, they kind of cycle in and cycle out. I learned phonics and that was out of favor, but I could still read more or less. And so how are you handling that problem? How do you wrestle that to the ground, knowing that, there'll be another thing that cycles, that might cycle in, 6, 8 years from now, or whatever the cycling interval is?
There is still a place for whole group reading, independent reading, the teacher pulling small groups. So we're looking to find that balance, but the explicit instruction hasn't been there with our current model. And that's the shift we have to swing back to, because we've been so far away from it.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question.
The intent on the balanced reading, that was supposed to be kind of like to inspire this love of reading, and then people would just naturally be attracted more to it, and then you just pick it up naturally. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, and maybe we're jumping ahead, but from Rod's comments there, can you help me better understand how, we're working on the core learners. We talked about those individualized sessions for those that just don't get it. What are we doing to push the top forward? How are we advancing the top portion too?
Yeah. So this presentation focuses more, like we said, on that core instruction piece, what all students get. That doesn't mean we still don't do the small groups where kids can first maybe use their decodable reader that all students have, but then get pushed into that chapter book or those pieces as well. But we're really looking at that, what all students are getting. And as Aaron said, that specialized piece can play that part. Also through our camp or within time, we want to make sure they're reading or math. That's where those kids get those touches too.
Great, great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Cool. So we started this journey with literacy, like I said, after we felt we were at a solid footing with our new math adoption and math implementation that we had 3 years ago. So this time last year, May, June, we started going through several book studies, which we'll be talking about a little bit. And then a group of teachers, about 20 staff members, our whole kindergarten team, Brenna, Aaron, the rest of our reading specialists, myself, Mr. Johnson, went through the letters training, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. And that was about 50 hours. Each staff member has committed to that learning through online modules, readings, and trainings. So it's been pretty intense for us. From that, we really wanted to make sure we had our learning up front. We went through a materials review in January with the core team and used a site called EdReports. We brought EdReports to the board when we did our math adoption. So EdReports is sort of like a clearinghouse of materials that have been vetted and looked at for looking at the relevance of it, the accessibility of it, the outcome that students have from those programs. So that's how we narrow down our materials. We did some school interviews on a certain product called CKLA, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We had a consultant come in to learn more in February. We did a school visit to New Glarus in March, and then we actually had a pilot with a couple of our teachers here as well. So they're going to talk about that journey. So we really want to have as many touches in different ways with different learning as much as possible in our journey. So it's been a full year journey. But we didn't want to put the cart before the horse. Meaning we have learned, instead of purchasing a resource and then do the learning, right? We're doing the learning for a year. And then learning about what resources are out there that fit that learning, fit what works best. So we were very mindful in our approach for a full year of getting that learning done before moving forward with anything. But very, very purposeful.
Yeah. Totally come back. So we did a couple of book studies. Over the summer we did a fresh look at phonics, and then we did shifting the balance. And what this did was a fresh look at phonics kind of brought us back to what phonics instruction looks like, should look like, could look like when you're talking about following a scope and sequence. And a scope and sequence is starting at your basic skills, and then it's building up, and so it goes from like starting in kindergarten to then what third graders are learning. And so you're following something so that all of your skills, you know that your child has had it the year before, so then you can build on that stuff. So it's just a scope and sequence where you're then following a sequential order of skills learned. So we read about a fresh look at phonics, and then we transitioned to shifting the balance, which was a really intriguing book. It talked about taking your balanced literacy and science of reading and how you kind of make a shift from balanced literacy to the science of reading, or how you incorporate, in not all scenarios can people just drop balanced literacy, they're not there. So how do you incorporate aspects of science of reading into balanced literacy instruction? So that was an interesting book to read. Then we did the letters training, which was a lot. That was a big unit 1, like kind of blew us all. It was all the brain knowledge, where we learned all about the reading brain. That was a lot to soak in September and start the school year, but it was really good. And we've been on that journey. I got my master's and my Reading 316 and my Reading 317 over the past 3 years, and I learned a lot that I didn't even get in my master's courses. So that training was incredibly impactful for us, and I had just been through all of the reading courses. So that gave us even more knowledge. And then the Truth About Reading was a documentary screening that Sarah invited some of us to, that was held at UW, which was just, it made a few of us cry sitting in the audience. It was really sad to see the state of Wisconsin's reading where we are right now. They had very specific data to show how like the whole state of Wisconsin is behind in our reading. And it just talked about the things that we could be doing with the science of reading and how to instruct our readers we learned, a huge part of it was about adults who didn't even know how to read, or kids who were labeled and then they were just sent through without ever actually being taught how to read, and they were just dismissed. We learned about a gentleman who was like 50 or so, even higher than that, who had never learned how to read. He was a billionaire, mind you, but didn't know how to read. He learned how to fake everything or have other people do it for him. And in the course of a few days, using a scope and sequence and working on those skills, he was able to read. So that was just really, it made a lot of us sad to see where we are and think about what we need to do better. This is me again. This is Scarborough's reading rope. So we learned a lot about this in our letters training. So down here, there's this little thing called the simple view of reading, and it's not actually simple. It's quite the simple in that the math is simple. So your word recognition, your language comprehension, you have to have those two to then equal reading comprehension. If one is faulting the other, if one is not as strong as the other, then your reading comprehension is not going to be strong. And our goal is reading comprehension. Our students need to comprehend. That's how they're going to be successful beyond school. We need to be able to understand what we're reading and then apply it. It's broken into these two strands. I actually listened to a podcast. If you think about it like a tree, so these are our roots. We have word recognition, and then within word recognition, you have different roots like phonological awareness, decoding, and then sight word recognition. Those roots come up together, and then they meet your language comprehension. So your word recognition is your building blocks, and then your language comprehension is your background knowledge, your vocabulary, your language structure, verbal reasoning, and your literacy knowledge. So those two strands come together, and then we have a skilled reader. So we have all these different components that we have to work on boosting and putting together so that we can then develop skilled readers.
So I'm sorry, can we go back just a minute? 30 more seconds.
Yeah.
So, and Sarah, I've asked this question to Sarah before, but so how do you keep track of that? I mean, this seems to me, if we have a simple view of reading, and why this seems to me to be terribly complicated, and maybe there's something that's socially scientific behind that complication. But if we've got this thing down here, and then we've got all this stuff, I mean, why do we need all this stuff, and how could you possibly keep track of each component of that for each kid to know that they're winding together to be a good reader?
You're gonna look at you're not gonna know every aspect, but when you have a student, so you're gonna look at phonological awareness. So when you have a whole system that's working correctly as a whole system, they're gonna start at the beginning with your basic skills and then be able to build up from it. So if you're starting at your basic skills and you're then going to the next grade and you don't have the basic skills, when they come in, so say you start in kindergarten and you're with your phonological awareness and you're beginning decoding. If we have a solid system in place, then I as a first grade teacher should know that X, Y, and Z was taught in kindergarten. So they should be able to come to me with these skills, and I'm going to build on them. If they don't have them, you'll notice that they won't be able to succeed with the curriculum that you're trying to provide for them. So it's not like you're honing in on, what is their background knowledge. When you're a teacher teaching to a kid and you're trying to pull in that background knowledge, you know what they have, but then you're also thinking about, you know what they have in the conversations that they're having with you. So then you're also then going to teach other background knowledge, but this is where it comes into play when you have a whole tier 1 system that is flowing and spiraling together.
See what you just said made perfect sense to me, but I fight complication at every corner, right? And so I get it, but it just, this kind of stuff just drives me crazy. A rope, and we got all these 5 and 4, and you know, so what the, no, just what you said. You're a great teacher, right? You know what your kids need. You don't need to see this.
No, but.
Oh, there's no but.
We also need our teachers, we need to know better, we need to do better. So our teachers,
Fair
like,
enough.
if you're talking from what we all came from, in my master's degree, this stuff was not even honed in on enough, and it was a reading specialist master's degree. So
I think that's okay.
if you think about how many teachers, though, our college prep has not prepped them for this kind of stuff. So we have teachers right now have no idea how this all fits together, and that's what it's a puzzle. We need to put all of the pieces together so that it starts from the beginning, and then we can build each and every year.
So Rob, with our program, we did, with our current resources, we don't have phonological awareness at all. So that was aha. And we also knew, okay, the coding really wasn't that good, which is students be able to break down and sound out words. So because it is broken down, we were able to pinpoint, nope, yep, nope, yep.
Okay, you know, so listen, I want to tell you why I'm asking all these questions. So we started with the numbers, right? And we clearly have some work to do. And I think, you know, my experience in my professional life is when you got stuff to work on, you make it as simple as you can. Right? You don't go to Mr. Scarborough and say, could you make a reading room for us? You just don't do that. You make it as simple as you can to solve that problem, to bring that number up. And that's, I mean, that's just the way I think the world is. So but I appreciate, see, the great news for us is we got a great teacher here who actually explained exactly the way that it should be from year to year, right? No, Mr. Scarborough's role. You're a great teacher. You got a master's degree now. Yeah, exactly. Great job.
Thank you.
So good luck, Heather. You're gonna love this, right? And look at some of those specific components.
All right, yeah,
Okay.
so I brought a couple students with me. One, I don't know, where do you want to go? You sit down. So in kindergarten last year, we started using called Haggerty, and we started it in January, and it takes about 10 minutes a day, but it focuses on phonemic awareness. So the kids really get into the routine, and we go through it really quick. So this is a beginning of the year lesson.
Heather, can I ask before you go? So why is phonemic awareness important for further student learning?
It's important for the kids to be able to hear sounds and recognize sounds and words before we're trying to show them the letters and teach them how to actually read letters and words. So we have to really build their language skills that way. So the first thing is rhyming. And for this part, you just repeat after me. Hop, mop.
Hop, mop.
Ran, fan.
Ran, fan.
Wet, jet.
Wet, jet.
Okay, and then the next one is the beginning sound. So I'm going to say a word, and I want you to tell me the beginning sound. Jump.
Jump.
Good. Fall. Quick. All right, okay. Now for the next one, we're going to work on compound words. I'm going to say a beginning and an ending, and then we'll clap them together. Outside.
Outside.
Outside, good. Pan, cake.
Pan, cake. Cake.
All right, now we're going to say a word, and we're going to punch out the final sound, the last sound we hear. The first word is job. How do you punch it out? I think we all do it a little differently.
Job.
Good. Head.
Head.
Very good. And then we go through, there's all sorts of different, there's basically every day there's 3 pages, and then we talk about, we go through the actual letters every day, and then the sounds the letters make. So they get that extra practice. We work on adding parts to words and deleting parts of words, and then finally at the end of kindergarten, we are changing the endings or the beginnings of words. So it gets increasingly complex. There's 34 weeks, or 35 weeks, but we've seen really great progress from our students through using this resource and only spending 10 minutes a day doing it. So that's been really great, and we'll be continuing to use it, and then first through third grade will also start using this next year.
Helps
Thank
with
you.
the coding too, I'm sure. It helps with the coding.
Oh, yes, yep. And then at least most of the 35 weeks, we work with nursery rhymes, we identify the rhyming words in nursery rhymes, and then at the end of the week, they get a copy of the nursery rhymes. So there's just a lot of components to it, but the kids get it, they love it, and it's a quick, fast thing that we can add to any curriculum that we're using.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
This must be the gifted and talented.
So
What a great kindergarten team, by the way. We have-
Yeah. They came right with me.
No, so I was going to ask, and Brian, you might be able to jump in here. So over the years, we've seen speech as IEP dramatically increased. Have there been studies with these other school districts that you have attended and observed? Have there been studies on how this helps with reducing the IEPs?
I guess I can't quote anything for you right now.
No, the things that I would say about special ed that I've been thinking throughout this presentation are kind of twofold. One, I don't think that, I haven't seen any research that would show that, but I can tell you that it's a lot of speech and language skills that they're using, and the speech and language pathologists this summer, like they're going through all the same training that they're going through so that they can incorporate it into their lessons and support the learning. Because as they're saying and hearing different vowel sounds and consonants out, that's how you read it. So it does have a direct, strong connection. The other thing, when you were kind of talking about all the strands kind of together, if you look at all of the IEP goals that we've done for years, it's really been, we're going to improve from an A to an E, or we're going to improve reading comprehension to this level with zero knowledge of actually where a kid's reading level is at and working on that specific skill. And so when we're looking at now at IEP goals and how to actually make improvement with a kid's reading, it's way more specific. Is it phonemic awareness? Is it some of the strands? So then we can really narrow it down and help support kids who need it.
So our kindergarten team, just that awesome study. So you guys you're doing it this year. And so what have you seen from this calendar year compared to regarding the speech?
I was just saying to Heather too, one of our greatest connections, one thing that we did demonstrate there was our blending and segmenting, which is connected right to our fast bridge assessment. And our scores have just gone really high with that section alone. I've personally seen my kiddos as writers, not as many tears right away. They're confident in going right into trying it and not just saying, all right, let's just do the beginning sound, looking at the whole word. We use, again, a lot of tactile, using our hands for tapping out the sounds and blending.
Yeah, and Sarah gave us all what they call alphabet boxes. So if we're stretching out a 3-letter word, a CBC word, so the word cat, there's a box for each word. So the kids are stretching out at, and then they're writing the letters for those sounds. So there's just lots of ways that Hybrid has helped us incorporate into our writing instruction.
Just the overall confidence, I would say, with all of our students.
I had a kid stretch out the word rhinoceros the other day when he was writing it, and granted it wasn't spelled correctly, but he's hearing all those sounds in that word, so it's really great to see how it's all playing together.
These phonemic awareness skills are incredibly important for when we ask kids to write independently. If they don't know how to break apart the sound just from listening, they produce things in their head, and then we try to get them to bring it to the paper, and if they can't vocalize that and figure out where to begin, then we have struggling writers who are stuck on spelling who can't actually get anything on the paper then. We did it in 3rd grade, and it was just incredible to see how many kids couldn't break apart the first sound from a word, or couldn't take off the ending sound from a word, or couldn't, there were so many things that we were like, these are 3rd graders, we should be able to do these kinds of things that were just not there, which is why we know better, so we're doing better.
I'll say too, this next year will be my 10th year in the district teaching kindergarten, and I have never had a group that I can just go right and just go around and manage type of thing, and I can do that this year, and I have all levels. Again, that confidence piece, and it's really cool to see, and the strength in that, and just from this one program.
Well, and just seeing your little demo, I had a kid who had speech and language when they were younger, and some of those things, I remember sitting there with Smith Ruth while they did I feel like some of those same exact lessons, so.
That was my point, you know,
Yeah.
that what you guys did there in 3 minutes, I think will ultimately reduce our speech IEP program, which is greatly underused.
You can't intervene in other systems, you have to have a strong core.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know Steve wants to keep us moving, because we're on the next slide. So.
When I'm in interviews, I put my pen down and someone starts talking too long.
Who has Onyx? Okay, Heather.
So the pictures are just some examples. I was one of the teachers that was able to pilot the CKLA program. The middle picture at the top just shows, that was actually the first grade, but it's one of the slides. Each one of the lessons has interactive slides for us to use. The top right is one of my kindergartners' works. We learned digraphs, so the kids learned the term digraph. We talked about how the two letters together, it's like a house, you have to have the top and the bottom, and it's just one sound. And it was just amazing to hear them use the language. We talked about what our mouth is doing, where your teeth are and your tongue is when you make each sound. So just making sure the kids are able to produce those sounds correctly helps them so much when they're trying to read and when they're trying to write those sounds. So the bottom corner shows there are little assessments built right into the program, and then it just gives you an idea of the skills that students might need extra help with, and then there are intervention lessons that go along with it. And I just feel like even through using this for only a couple of months, I learned so much more about where my kids are as readers, what they can do, and I was just amazed at how much more they can do than what we've been expecting. So it was really awesome.
Excellent. Is it a video from your class? Oh, yeah. So kindergarten classroom is Shirley's room.
The next word we're going to make, friends, is shit. Let's tap it already. Shit. Right? Shit. Shit. Like, remembering to start by that green star. This is the beginning, friends. What do you hear? Somebody even hard for them this early. Yeah, that's okay. It's fine. Elena, do you want to help me? And then you will take it easy. Okay, you want to use my turn? All right, let's watch Elena. Okay, where do we go? It. Great job. Awesome.
This is a really neat component of the program. Just kindergarten has these folders, they're called chaining folders, and you switch out the letters, so the digraphs each are on their own little paper, but it's really neat to see how they're building words. They loved using these things, and I was just really pleasantly surprised with how well they did with it. It's a lot, and there's a lot of whole group, but there's also a lot of movement. They get to get up and they're tapping the letters and the words, and there's just a lot of physical movement as well. So they really were engaged in the program.
All right, so I piloted this CKLA program at the 3rd grade level, which is important to know that there's 2 portions of this curriculum. There's the skills portion, which is your phonemic awareness and your phonics and your decoding, the building blocks, and then obviously by the time they get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we're reading to learn. So there is a pretty heavy knowledge component to the program, and there is skills and knowledge at every single grade level, but at 3rd grade, it's where the 2 come together. So there's a little bit of skill, which is more of a review from the previous 3 years, and then the knowledge portion is pretty heavy, which is more of like your background knowledge and learning new topics. And so I piloted both. So the kindergarten and 1st grade level did just the skill pilot. I piloted the skill and the knowledge just to kind of see what that might look like at the older level. So this is what our skills would look like in third grade. So we're expecting that they know their root words by now, because they've learned those diagraphs and the CBC words and all of the skills. So what we're teaching them in third grade is endings and how endings could potentially change a base word, and then what to do if we had to double or things like that. That's what that particular picture is showing you. And then we also talk a lot about grammar in third grade, so we learned a lot about the different types of sentences. Now this was just one unit that I piloted, of course, so there'd be a lot more of the component. And then I think the next, so that this is more of the knowledge portion. The first two things were more of the skill, this is more of the knowledge. So my particular unit that I piloted was all about vertebrates and invertebrates. So this particular curriculum is super social studies and science heavy. And so that's something actually I've been asking for years, because it's like, why are we doing science and social studies separate of reading? It seems so silly. Why shouldn't they be one program? That's kind of what this program is. It tends to spiral and kind of skip every other grade. So like first grade is going to be learning a lot of these same skills. So they're going to start learning words like vertebrate and invertebrate, habitat, that sort of thing. And then we in third grade are going to bring it back again, but at a higher level. So they've built their background knowledge and their schema. So this was super engaging for the kids. Everybody that walked into my room were just so surprised about how excited the kids were. The slides were amazing, just to see all the different animals. Of course, like what kid doesn't love learning about animals? And it was really neat to see some of my readers that typically would never be able to read grade level text, because they knew a lot of these words through repeated exposure throughout the course of the unit. By the end, we sat down and they could read a lot of what we were expecting them to read, simply because they had been exposed to the words. So I just thought, gosh, imagine if this is like a spiral over time, how that would feel for a reader that has seen some of these words before and feels successful for the first time, rather than just jumping around all of the time with different and new things every single year. I'm not sure what else comes up. And then there's a lot of like writing components. So those little, you'll see a little reader there in front of them. So those have all of the stories in them, and some of it is a read aloud, some of it the student reads to themselves, but then there's a lot of note taking that's involved, and they would get really excited about writing their facts down and being able to share the facts that they were learning. So as I just said, this particular curriculum is super science and social studies heavy. It tends to kind of flip-flop. One unit might be more science heavy, the next unit might be more social studies heavy, and then there are, of course, some fiction texts kind of sprinkled in there as well, because we know that that's important. But that's the part that we loved, is we thought about how much time we would really need to be able to invest in this, and we really wanted to find something, I mean, ideally that we could bring in our science and social studies into our literacy block, and that's what this does. As I said before, it does spiral. It was kind of neat to see what grade level, so it was like first, third, and fifth all learned about animals, but in different ways. And that's also civilization. So like in kindergarten, they learn about like very early civilizations all the way up to fifth grade. They're like Mesopotamia and some other things. So it kind of is neat to see how that would spiral over time. And just from talking to some of the pilot schools, I know parents particularly were just blown away by how much knowledge their kid had. And I know as a teacher, I learned a lot of things that I didn't know at all. I was like, oh my gosh, like what? And the kids, would kind of bring in a lot of knowledge from wildcrafts or different things that they had seen. So I guess I've never been more excited to teach literacy before, because it was really engaging. And so yeah, I just felt like it embedded a lot of the topics that we know are important to literacy.
We had Brenda's counterpart, Ashley Mary, also piloted with her, and some unsolicited feedback. But I thought I'd share. The parent just reached out because she knew that there was a pilot going on, and it was just a great feedback that we had that we weren't expecting. But as Brenda said, parents were noticing changes with their students coming home and being excited about the content they were learning. So it's just an example of one parent's perspective. Let's get to our current next steps for implementation. So this current school year, 22-23, as we said,
Kindergarten implemented the phonemic awareness resource called Haggerty. So we're talking about two different resources here. One is already in motion, and then we would like to put CKLA in motion for the larger core of our literacy program. So like I said, 22-23, the kindergarten team implemented Haggerty. They also participated in the letters training. 4K, so Nicole Teague was interested in seeing what kindergarten was doing. So she had a team pilot that Haggerty phonemic awareness as well, and those teachers were pleasantly surprised. So in 23-24, 4K will also be implementing that Haggerty piece. Kindergarten will continue Haggerty, and then with board approval, we'll see tonight. Looking forward to kindergarten implementing that more universal core, larger program called CKLA. Then, again, that cart before the horse idea. Third, second, and first grade teachers will undergo letters training to do their learning and catch up with the kindergarten team, because then in the 24-25 school year, they will implement CKLA. So it's a staggered approach, putting the learning first with the team, and then implement, and then learning first, and then implement. So, very strategic approach this as well.
So is this an approach that the school districts that you visited followed?
Some school districts did implement Haggerty. I don't know if anyone put letters training before. Many people are like, man, you guys did letter training? we wish we would have did that. So I don't know if any school districts did letters training prior.
So, because we have our data, which is somewhat anecdotal, which shows this year, and you guys have seen the real data as we see it.
Yeah.
But for example, New Glarus was up there and some of those kind of things. If this was introduced in 2016, 2017 in their district, what are they seeing now? And if testing scores are ultimately our measure, what are they seeing?
Yeah, New Glarus implemented I want to say a year before COVID. So when we look at their data, I'm not quite sure when I look at that, because they had first year implementation, COVID, come out of COVID, it's not quite there yet because of where that's at. So yes, it did look at that.
So there's data out there, but we were thinking that it's inconclusive.
Correct.
Based on the fact that
COVID really messed things up.
So if this is like building blocks, do we have, I assume we have a plan for those kids who will start this in 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade who won't have those pieces because they're starting in the middle. I'm assuming there's a plan to kind of catch them up.
Yeah, the Haggerty piece, that phonemic awareness in grades 1, 2, 3 next year. So have that slow build up. And then, so at least when our kindergarten next year is in 1st grade, we'll have that 2-year change. But then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th would be starting fresh with CKLA. Yeah.
So you mentioned a significant time investment by the people sitting over there. Can you speak a little bit to that? Because that's pulling double duty. That's a big deal over the last whole while. You mentioned 50 hours. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So letters training, there's four units. Each unit has 8 modules. We provided sometimes during early release time, but not really enough. So when I talked to the team and told the team about letters, I said it's going to be time outside of our contractual time to go through that. But we do have a stipend in place to recognize that because it is outside of our time. But from my understanding, going through it myself, I learned a heck of a lot. Like I started talking their lingo, but it definitely laid the foundation in order to move to a new curriculum. I think if we just jumped into a new resource, the why wouldn't have been there, the why would not have been there.
I'll definitely speak to the reading role piece, Rod. I was saying that I was a struggling reader in elementary school and I was like, what is this? Get me out of here. I mean, and there was a lot of things, but I'm like, okay, when we're using Haggerty, that connects with this goes with this. So and especially going into using CKLA, it's when you're doing it and in the trenches of doing it, it's like, okay, I'm glad I learned it in letters. I'm by no means an expert at letters at all, but it was nice to have the exposure to it and get that foundational skills for me, because I graduated college, I have a master's, and I did not learn any of that. And it was like, wow, thought I knew what I was doing.
I think we're already seeing it too, like our building literacy team, the first and second grade teachers that haven't done the letters training are a little leery of what we're telling them about CKLA, that there's a lot of whole group, and so I think they need that background to really be invested in learning the program and doing it well, because they are still caught up in all the balanced literacy and just haven't had the education that we had.
So board members, as a result of this outstanding work done by the team here tonight, we're asking for your consideration and our planned purchase of our elementary early literacy program.
Motion to approve the planned purchase of the district's elementary literacy program.
I second that.
All those in favor of purchasing the district's elementary literacy program, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks for
So I just want to make a comment because I know I asked some questions. We got into a discussion, which is terrific. Thank you. We're really lucky to have you guys as the team who's going to help us dig out of this hole. I mean, that's what it is. And we really appreciate what you're doing, and we're lucky to have you as a team, as I said before. So thank you.
Yes, thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
I get text.
Thank you. First reading, consider revisions to board policy 431.2, full day absence.
So if you looked at this policy, you noticed if you looked at the red line, there's only one sentence that remained from the previous red line. So yeah, not even a full sentence. And so it really kind of changed a lot. Earlier in the year, we changed our compulsory attendance policy. That's the biggest piece of attendance. This is just one small piece, which is what you consider to be a full day. So if somebody comes to school, what's a part day, what's a full day? And that's what this policy does, and we have changed it completely. Because what it used to be is that if you missed for over 30 minutes, you were considered a full day absence. So, what we've heard over and over at the high school, I sleep in, I'm gonna be 30 minutes late, I don't need to go to school. You're gonna count me absent the whole day anyways. I have to leave at 2:50, 2:45 for a dentist appointment, I'm gonna get counted a full day absent, so why even go? So those are the issues that we're really trying to address. So this kind of goes into, the importance of being at school. It just goes into everything we just talked about with literacy, right? It's important that you're here at a young age, and that goes all the way up. And so how we calculate it goes now according to DPI law. And it's a little bit tighter than DPI, but not, it gives a lot more flexibility. So if somebody's at school for at least 90% of the day, so they need to leave at 2:45, they're considered a full day at school. If they're there for at least 33 to 90%, that'll be a half day. And then less than 33%, which is, I'm barely at school, then you're considered a full day absent. In the administrative regulations, we'll write down the exact minutes of what that means and how it will be calculated from the school secretary standpoint.
And are we gonna share that with parents?
It'll be shared with parents. In fact, Talisa was just showing me, she's been already working on an attendance. We're doing a whole campaign over the summer that goes into this. We have posters that have been created that says, Vikings that attend today achieve tomorrow. So it'll be kind of a big initiative about attendance as a whole.
Brian, I really like this. My one question is, in what policy does it say how many days does a student have to be absent?
It's in admin reg under compulsory attendance, and so that will be updated. So if you know this, and some of you do, we've been allowing up to 20 days of being absent. The law allows 10 days, but because we haven't had a partial day, we've given extra. So that's 10 days of medical and 10 days of personal. And people will call and be like, what do I have left? Just give me that, count it as that.
You're listening to my voicemail.
I might have heard this story. And so now it's just you get 10 days. Now that doesn't include if you get sent home. So we have talked to the school nurses. So if you get sent home for a fever, it's automatically medically excused. So that doesn't count as part of your 10 days. If you test positive for COVID and you have to be out for 5 days, that's medically excused. It doesn't count as part of 10 days. You get doctor's notes, orthodontist appointments, all of that. Those then won't count. But it is 10 days, it's 10 days. It's not personal, it's not medical, it's just 10 days.
So have you tested this against past data to see how it changes the numbers?
It will dramatically, we've talked about it. We haven't looked at it specifically, but our attendance data that's submitted to DPI is if you're gone for a half day, you're considered a full day absence. So this will make our attendance look a lot better. And it's what DPI allows. So it's not like we're cheating the system to make it look better. They actually give us more flexibility from this. But the reason we chose 90% is we didn't want kids to be like, I don't like English class, so I'm never going to go to that. So it doesn't count a full class period.
That was my next question.
Yeah.
Right, so what are the consequences? I'm sure you're not on track to graduate, but currently what are the consequences if how often do we monitor that? How often do we step in?
After 10 days, you get a letter in the mail that says, you're at risk for truant. And then we have multiple means to try to work with you. So we have meetings with the family. Sometimes it's just enough to say, they'll send an email and be like, we've just been really sick. We just can't get it. We'll get a doctor's note, or we'll work with our doctors. Or we took a big vacation and it's just the way it's gone this year. And if it's a one-time thing, then there's no consequences for that. But if there are habitually truant, we've had meetings, we'll do face-to-faces, we'll try to interact. The assistant principals or principals lead that within every building. And if there's no response, there's no improvement, then we will move forward with truancy. How that looks at elementary schools are very different than high schools. So elementary schools, the punishment really can be that they get a social worker, and then they're on they can get into one of the Dane County programs to get extra support, and how can we develop plans to get you to school better. High school, they can try that. It doesn't really work. And so then they are more likely, what we always ask for, not to give a ticket. But can you hold it and say if your attendance improves, we'll drop it. Some sort of meat to it. And so they've done that. For kids who just are flat out refusing to go to school, they will take away work permits as well. So there are some, it becomes a little bit stronger, but those are few and far between, and those are I'm refusing to come to school and I'm not making any improvement. There's no reason for me not to be in school. There's no case that I know of where somebody's actively trying to come to school, or they took an extra vacation, or they're in a sports team that travels all over the country and they just haven't been, they missed more than 10 days. Those aren't going to court. There isn't any consequence beyond school.
In my mind, with young people who are just outright refusing, obviously the issue's far deeper than that, and we need to bring a team together that wraps around the family. Building bridges is a great example of that at the elementary and middle level, but we don't have that as a tool in the high school. So we try to address it from the mental health, family support.
And we do a lot of that for high school students. I know all of our student services staff have done home visits. We have cell phone numbers of kids that we're calling to wake up in the morning, where their alarm clocks, where there's a lot of different accommodations that we're providing before we move to the next level. So we have a lot of strategies in place.
Ryan, is this increase, decrease, neutral on administration of monitoring and following up?
It will probably be more, I don't know. They've all asked for it too, so there's no like this is gonna add to our workload. There's been no concern over that. So.
Forgive my, is there any consequence to a school district who has a significant habitual truancy problem?
Is the school report carding system?
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm just
Yep.
I know it's, in other states, I've seen it where it has monetary impact, but ours it's on the report card.
Yes, that's right.
Got it.
So board members, we'd love to see if you'd be willing to consider approval of this policy, as it would be a first reading if it would require Madam President a roll call vote.
Motion to approve.
Second that.
Alrighty, as Dr. Sano just said, it'll be a roll call vote. So, Joel?
Aye.
Rod?
Yes.
Leah? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Brian? Yes. Adam?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks.
Scott, you have 3 purchases to present to us. Dish machine, steam table, and vehicle.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, 3 items in front of you. I really need to give all the credit to Michelle Dank, our Director of Student Nutrition. She worked diligently getting the quotes together, and quite frankly, one of the items is a food truck, and Brian Toth and our transportation team also worked very closely with Michelle, helping her through those quotes and so forth. So kudos to the team. Thank you, BGT members. I was not in attendance at the last BGT meeting, so thank you for having dialogue, not only with the BGT team, but also Michelle Dink, who traditionally has not been a part of that committee, but happily joined that group and had dialogue with all of you, so thank you for allowing her to join you. So the first one you'll see up on the screen and maybe on your computer as well, it's the replacement of an IC dish machine, and the one that's in yellow, you'll see, well, golly gee, they're all the same product. Well, that's great, because it's an apples to apples comparison. We don't always have that opportunity. One of the things that Michelle's looking to do for all 3 of these items is to use her fund balance to be able to spend down some of the savings that she's had. So in this particular case, it would be the Hobart model highlighted in yellow for $63,226. Of course, school's ending this week, but it would be fully operational and ready to go for the start of next school year.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jim. Alrighty, all those in
Wait,
favor?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, Leah.
What is a dish machine?
Cleaning machine.
Is it
Cleaning
like a dishwasher?
Yes.
I was like, what is a dish machine? I'm
I'm on board now. Before I approve.
Residential dishwasher.
Machine, I want to know what it does. All right, I'm on board now. Dish machine just didn't come, couldn't come up with
Dish machine.
Yeah, all right.
All those in favor of the approval for the purchase of a dish machine, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? E, consideration of a steam table.
So this is a new serving table also at the IC. As you can see, 2 of the 3 items is investing in some capital improvements to the IC kitchen. This one, you'll see the vendor in yellow would be from Kavanaugh for a total of $46,471.20.
Motion to approve.
Second.
This one, I was curious, what is it?
It's actually what Michelle tells me is what they use to actually have food out on display and able to keep it warm.
Like a giant chafing dish.
Yeah, it's like a giant, we have a buffet.
Yep.
Is what's underneath it.
Got it.
Any other questions or comments? All those in favor of approving the purchase for the steam table, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? F, planned purchase of a delivery vehicle.
Now this item is a couple of $100 more, $300 and some more than the lowest item, but we're able to work with a local vendor close to home here in Middleton Ford. Brian Toth worked quite a bit, like I said, with our food service team, specifically Michelle Dink, to make sure that it's not only a vehicle that is reliable, has good reviews and so forth, but will meet the needs that we have in our district for transporting food. I also hear that the truck has the capacity for us to be able to use our forklift and be able to move things in and out of the vehicle rather than doing things by hand, which is fantastic. But it is not one of, it's, you know, we always joke that our old food truck almost, if it wasn't the color it was, it looked like a U-Haul. You know, it had a really big box in the back of it. So this is more of a traditional transit, as you can see. And so the item in yellow would be the Middleton Ford product at $57,485.
We would be using our insurance on that
for a portion of it.
For a portion.
Approximately $20,000.
Any questions?
So it's electric? Like it says on the list, on the listing up there, it's an electric vehicle too?
Is it what?
Electric vehicle, like it's battery?
It is, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Do we have many district vehicles that are electric, or are they most, this is our first one?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a really good addition. I like that.
Mark is safe.
Looking for a motion?
Second.
Alrighty, all those in favor of the purchase of a delivery vehicle, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Scott.
Number 8, citizens' comments. Like anybody else? Joe?
I would just like to say thank you for, I'm not even in this district, but I'm so impressed with your team right here. This is a huge deal. I mean, that is a huge deal. Good job, thank you.
Number 9, future agenda items. Dr. Snyder, anything to point out? Alrighty, if anyone has any ideas or suggestions, please let me or Dr. Snyder know. Number 10, schedule of next meetings.
I just mentioned, board members, on July the 17th, there'll be a joint meeting between education and SAW that night. And as such, there will be no education meeting on July the 3rd. If for some reason you plan on being away on the July 4th weekend, we want to make certain we have quorum for Monday night, July 3rd's meeting. If you don't plan on being in town, won't you please let me or Mrs. Aragoni know so that way we can plan accordingly? Thank you.
Number 11, closed session. Contemplated closed session per section 19.851E Wisconsin statute, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. To wit, Village Partnership for Recreational Complex Site. This is a roll call vote. Joel? Oh, I'm sorry, motion first. Jump ahead.
Motion to adjourn to closed session.
Second.
Now we can do roll call.
Yes.
Joel? Rob?
Yes.
Leah? Yes. Jim?
Yes.
Carly? Yes. Adam?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Do you want to take a 5-minute break and then we will